Okay, start.
Assalamualaikum and good morning to Dr. Shukri, our lecturer of international economy, and to all my friends. So first of all, I'm so sorry I can't on my camera since it's gonna get stuck if I on. So let's start with our topics today. So our questions today is based on the chapter 2 topic, which is the foundations of modern trade theory, the absolute advantage and comparative advantage. So we are from group 2. Which consists of 5 members, Lavanya, Hairi, me, myself, Ahmad, Adriana, and Nurul Faizatul. So let's start with the example 1. Next slide, please. Please, next slide. All right. So let's look at the first example. Okay. So let's look at the table 2.1, which shows the maximum amount of X or Y in country A and country B that they can produce by using all the resources with best technology available. So if you look at the table, country A will produce, country A can produce 1,500 product X and 500 product Y. Meanwhile, country B can produce 800 product X and 1,200 product Y. So the first question is, while assuming the continuous cost condition, draw a PPF for each country, which is country A and country B. Okay, so this is the example of the PPF, as we can see from the country A graph. So what you should have on the graph is, first in the axis, you can see the product Y in the axis Y and the product X in the axis X. And then what's important is not about the square within the line, but you look like at the amount, which is 500 and also 1,500 on the axis X. And then on the country B, the amount is 1,200 on the axis Y and 800 on the axis X. And then the question is continued with the second question. I mean, within the same question, which is in alternative, country A produces and consumes 600 X and 300 Y. Country B produces and consumes 400 X and 600 Y. To show the alternative points on your graph. So you just have to put the amount that they give, which is, for example, for the country A, it's stated there that it can produce and consume 600 X and 300 Y. So just put it on the graph, and you get the intersection there on the point A. So the point A on both graph for the both countries A and B is the altitude points. All right. So let's move to the next question, which is determining the MRT of Y into X for each country. So for country A, to find the MRT, this is easy, which is the amount from the axis Y, you just divide it into the amount of the product on the axis X, which is for the country A, 500 divide 1,500, you get the 0.33. And for country B is 1,200 divide to 800, you can get 1.5. So that's the MRT. Okay, let's move to the next question. All right, thank you. So what product each country should specialize? So it's very obvious if you look at the table. So country A will be specialized in X productions since it managed to produce a higher amount of product X compared to country B. And then on the other hand, country B will be specialized in Y production because it managed to produce a higher amount of product Y compared to country A. So we have to show the specialization point for each country. So for country A, actually there's a mistake on the graph. It's supposed to be on the amount 1,500. It's not on the 500. That's a mistake. So the SP point should be on the 1,500, which is on the axis X. So that's the mistake. But for the country B, you can see the SP point is, I put it star on there, which is on axis Y, which is 1,200. Alright, so question 5, how much are the total production gains combined by the two countries in each X and Y? So after specialization, the total production of product X for both countries is 1,500, okay, compared to 1,000 only before specialization. While for product Y, the total production for both countries is 1,200 compared to 900 only before specialization. So where I get the 1,000? 1,000 is actually based on the question itself. As you can see, if you look at the questions back, can you show the previous slide, Hailey? Okay, so if you look at the question number 1, it stated there that country A produce and consume 600x and 300y, while country B produce and consume 400x and 600y. So if you add 600x and 400x, it's the total is 1,000, which is a bit low. But after specialization, the production of X is 1,500, which is higher after we have specialization. Same goes to Y production. Before the specialization, it is 900, but now it's 1,200. All right, so let's move to the next question. Okay, so for the next question, I will pass it to Hairi.
Okay, hello. I will to.
This is which question now?
Which question is B?
B. Okay,
Yes,
first
B.
part. First part, B.
Yes.
So what was the conclusion for first part of A? So how much was the production gain?
So production gain for product X is 1,500. For product Y, it is 1,200.
Okay. Did you get the MRT is 1/3, and the other one is MRT is 1.1 and a half.
Yeah.
And Canada specializes in aluminum. Is that what you got?
There's
Right.
there's no Canada on here.
What did I do?
It's only country A and country B.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I changed my question. Okay, country A, aluminum, right?
X, yeah, product X.
Yes, product X. Okay, I've changed everything. That's why I got confused. Okay, just want to check, and you have to calculate again for the both countries. The consumption gain, the production gain will be 500 product X. 500 of product X. And 300 of product Y. So you have to check again. That's the production gains for both countries. So move on to B. Okay, proceed for B.
Okay, I will continue to the question. What are the lower and upper limits for the terms of trade (TOT) to lie if the country's trade? For the product S, in the country A, 1S is equal to the 3Y, while in country B, 1S is equal to 0.67Y. If the international price ratio is between 0.67Y in the country B is less than TOT and less than 3Y in the country A. The country A will import for less than 3Y and the country B will sell them for more than 0.67Y. For the conclusion, the country B will export the product S same with the lowest price 0.67Y, and the country A will import the product S its higher price 3Y. And for product Y, in the country A, 1Y is equal to 0.3 TS, while in the country B, 1Y is equal to 1.5x. If the country price ratio is between 0.33x in the country A, less than TOT, and less than in 1.5x in the country B. The country B will import Y for less than 1.5x, and the country A will sell them for more than 0.33x.
Wait a
Country
minute.
A,
Please wait a minute. According to the graph that you're drawing, the MRT for country A is too small for me to be looking at this. The MRT, the MRT is actually the opportunity cost for country A is lower than the MRT, which is opportunity cost for production of X. For country B, is lower. A is lower than B. So the right answer is that country A exports X, country B imports X. Country B exports Y. In another way of saying. So you have to check again. This is too small for me. I just look at the shape of the graph, which you can see. That's
yes,
the
sir, I can see, sir. Yes, for sure, I'm wrong. Sorry, sir. I will redo it again.
yes,
Okay, may I continue, sir?
yes. And did you answer already the upper limit, lower limit just now?
Yes, the country A will import the product Y for the lowest price 0.33s, and the country B will export product Y in the higher price 1.5s.
Yeah. So easiest, or in other way, the concept is that the lower limit for country A, we're talking about country A, okay?
Yes.
The lower limit will be the same line as country A's PPF.
Oh,
Yeah. Just look at the picture now. The bottom line is that I get what I have, which is my own line, PPF, which is connecting, too small for me, X 1005 and Y 500. The line PPF line of country A, that's the lower bound or lower limit. The upper limit will be the uh, the the line for country B's production possibility frontier. That's the upper limit. This country A wants to get as much as that. Go up. Okay, this okay. You can see my hand now. This is the same line as PPF, production possibilities frontier for country A. Same line. Yes, that one. That's my country A's bottom line. Whatever I play, whatever the game I'm playing, selling whatever here, I should get as much as that. No below than that, no lower than that. Lower than that, I lose. If I'm on that line, I'm breaking even. I do not lose, I do not gain. So that's the lower limit. So the upper limit will be as much as possible. And that as much as possible, as you go up, the price of X will become more expensive. That's what the country A wants, more expensive. So how much expensive that country A can get, as much as the offering of relative price by country B. That's the upper limit. Cannot go more than that. So in between that, this my bottom line, and this will be the TOT that you next slide. Yeah, that's TOT. TOT will be in between. If you can see me, in between my there.
yes.
This I cannot hold. Yeah, that's the OT there in between. Okay, you got it right.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
continue to see. That's the concept. Okay,
Yes.
move on.
The okay. I will continue to the next question. Okay. For the next question is, suppose both country agree to TOT of 1/1. Draw the TOT line. So for the TOT line, we can see at the graph. The TOT line for the country A, the new TOT line, 1015, and the same goes to the product S. And for the country B, we show the TOT line is at 1200 for the TOT line. And for the next question is, assume 500 of Y are traded for the 500 of S. So we can see at the country A, the
One to
trader
one.
is
Ratio of 1 to 1. 1 1.
1 to 1. Okay. For the assume the trader is 500. For the country A, we can see at the product Y, 500 is traded. So the specialization point is low to become the 1000. So the country B is at the product X for the 500. And the specialization point is goes to the 700, and it is the consumption point after the trade. And the next is the consumption gains from trade for each country A, and country B consists of how many of X and how many of Y. And for the country A,
You have to show the trade triangle.
trade triangle for the next questions.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
So I will continue the how many of X and how many of Y for the both of country. So for country A, the product S is equal to 400, but 400 it is 1000 minus 600, and the product Y is equal to the 200 is 500 minus to 300. And for country B, the product S is product S and product Y both is 100. Okay, I will pass to the next presenter, Vania.
Good day, Doctor. I'm Lavanya. So my question is, how much are the exports and imports of what product, and how much is TOT that the trade triangle of each country A and country B is bounded by? So for the country A, export is 500x and import 500y. Terms of trade 1y equals to 1x. Whereas the country B export 500y and import 500x. In terms of trade 1x equals to 1y. Next question, please.
Oh,
So
just
we have
now you didn't answer trade triangle because that's very important. You must identify correctly the place, the area of trade triangle.
sorry about that, Doctor. So I did take it.
Could you go back to the graph?
Yeah, sure. Please.
So I see here, you have to check again. Immediately, we can say the trade triangle will be on the right-hand corner because of complete specialization. So one thing about constant cost model, which is 2 by 2 by 1, okay, one factor only, labor, constant cost, which is straight line, PPF straight line. The main thing about trading, which is the specialization point, is that is complete specialization at the point of to the very right, which is 1005. Country A produce X 1005X completely, but 0 Y. The same, the opposite for country B. Country B specializes at what I cannot all the way up. I cannot see the number, too small. All the way up, Y, complete, but 0x. So the trade triangle, you have to know this, put in your mind, very easily to know. Country X export, country A export X. Definitely, country A's trade triangle will be on the right. That triangle, that triangle on the very right. So bordered by 500 tons of X. Sorry, 500 X, which is export, and 500 Y of imports, and the TOT, which is 1 to 1, the ratio. So on the right, bottom and right, yes. For country B, the triangle will be up, all the way up and left. There, yes. Okay, you do there, correct. For country A, you do the same thing with the blue thing. Yes, okay. Okay, now, next question that you wanted to do.
Thank you for the explanation, Doctor. So we are moving to example 2. So for the first question is, with autos on the horizontal axis and steel on the vertical axis, draw the PPF of each Japan and Korea. So these are the PPF of Japan, which is shape of concave, and the combination of steel and autos. Next slide, please. And same goes to Korea. This curve also look concave, and this is PPF of Korea.
Okay,
So I move on to question 2, which is state why the PPF of each country appears concave or both out from the origin. The PPFs are both outward or concave due to increasing opportunity cost of production. In other words, resources are equally efficient producing both goods. For example, some resources are better suited for the production of one of the two goods, say steel, and when these resources are diverted to the production of the other good, auto, they are not as productive as they are in production of original good, steel, and therefore the cost of production increases for auto. For example, more and more resources will have to be diverted to produce the same amount of output of the good, which is auto. The opportunity cost increases since we are diverting those resources which are better at producing the other good, steel, and therefore the amount of the other good given up to produce each additional unit of the given good increase as we
that's enough.
move closer.
That's enough. We have run very limited time. So very quick answer will be, you know, the two factors here. One is suitable for the other one, for other product, and one the other, and yet the shape of the PPF will determine which country will have competitive advantage in what product. I think that's a quick answer. What you said, I agree totally, but time is so limited. Okay, move on.
Okay, that's all from me. I pass to my fellow member.
For question C, which is in autarky, Japan produce and consume 500 steel and 600 autos, while Korea produce 200 steel and 800 autos. So, to draw a tangent line, these are the PPF from question A, and we just add tangent line at points 600 and 500 according to the question for Japan.
Okay.
Next slide.
Okay, wait. I just wanna do little refinement for you all. Good that you show this slide. So when we write MRT, minus 0.2 y. We have to, or in this case, steel. So you have to do minus 0.2 steel. You have to add it back. For example, MRT is x, y over, change in y over set x. Okay, let me repeat. I misspoke. MRT in general, okay? Forget about steel or auto in general. MRT will be the change in y divided by the change in x. Okay, follow that one. MRT will be the change in y, how much you jump, how high you jump, divided by how far you run, which is the change in y divided by the change in x. So you got the answer, the number, in this case, negative 0.2. You have to add negative 0.2 y. Just add that word. That really shows that you understand the opportunity cost for getting one more unit of x, the opportunity cost of getting one more unit, producing one more unit of x, okay, x, will be how much in y that you must sacrifice or you cannot produce. You must reduce the production of y. That's why, to make sure you understand this concept, the right way is that y in the back. Did you follow me? Let me repeat for the last time. MRT, or opportunity cost for the production of one more unit of x. Okay, slowly I go. Equals the change in the production of the change in y on the top. See, we want to calculate x, but y on the top. And opportunity cost of production of one more unit of x will be equal to change in y divided by change in x. You get the answer, minus 0.2 y. You must add y. Do you got it? It says that in order for you to add one more nasi lemak, you have to sacrifice, reduce 0.2 nasi lemak, baju. You cannot buy baju, shirt. You want to eat one more nasi lemak, you have to reduce your ability to buy baju by 0.2. To produce baju. In this case, we were talking about production. In other way, let me put it in that one. In order for you to add one more x, you have to reduce 0.2 minus, right? You have to reduce 0.2 y. You understand now? You got it? That's why you have to put y, negative 0.2 y. All right, done. So next.
So from the MRT, we can get that Japan must give up producing 0.2 steel for any additional unit of output it produce.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Next slide. For Korea, these are the tangent line according to the question 800 to 100. And from this tangent line, we can get MRT, which are negative 5. Meaning that MRT
Negative 5 steel. You must write negative 5 steel.
5 steels. Oh, okay. Negative 5 steels, which is MRT of steel into autos for Korea is negative 5y. Is it right, Doctor?
Yes.
Okay.
5y or negative 5 steel in this case, because you're talking about steel.
Thank you, Doctor. So for next question, based on the MRT.
Okay, all right.
What product should Japan and Korea specialize is? Korea, based on the MRT, Korea should specialize in productions of steels because of higher opportunity cost of producing steels in Korea than it is in Japan. And meanwhile, the Japan should specialize.
It is easier for you to answer like this. Which one specialization? You start with the with Japan first, so that easy for other people to follow.
Sorry, doctor.
Easy for every one of us to follow. You start with Japan.
Okay, sir. So for Japan should specialize in productions of autos because of higher opportunity cost in producing steels, which
Lower opportunity. Yes, correct. Yes, the other side. Yes, correct. But you better say this. Japan should specialize in autos because lower opportunity cost for auto production in Japan.
okay.
That's easier to understand. What you say was correct, but you take the other detour, the other side. So say that again what I said just now to make sure you understand.
Korea should specialize in productions
Japan
of
first.
auto.
Japan first. Japan.
Japan should specialize productions in auto because of lower opportunity cost of
In the production of
in productions of steel.
in the production of auto. Japan should specialize in
Okay.
auto because Japan has lower opportunity cost in the production of auto.
Oh, yes, sir. Sorry, doctor. I confused already.
Yeah, that's the best way to say. I should specialize in nasi lemak because opportunity cost for me lower in nasi lemak than baju. Okay, then now Korea.
And Korea should specialize in productions of steels because of lower opportunity cost of producing steel.
Yeah, correct. But better to say this way. Better to say this way. Just maintain on the auto. Correct. Nothing wrong. I would say like this. Korea will specialize in steel because higher opportunity cost in production of auto.
Okay, doctor.
You got it? Let
I
me
got
repeat. Korea should specialize in steel because for Korea to produce auto, Korea has very high opportunity cost in auto compared with in steel. High opportunity cost in auto for Korea. That's why Korea should specialize in steel. Got it?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, move on.
I think that's all from me. Thank you. I pass to another my friends.
So all you actually say, all correct. I'm just making it simple for you to say and for other people to understand. Okay, start.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay, start. We cannot hear you. So I'm waiting for the audio from you. This model contrasts with the first one. 2 by 2 by 1. This is 2 by 2 by 2 factors. Capital and labor.
I know unmute my mic. Sorry. For the next question is the process of specialization continues until the relative product price or MRTs become equal. Suppose the converge at MRT equal to 1. How much steel and autos does each Japan and Korea now produce? And how much are total production gains combined for the two countries in steel and autos? As we can see at the graph, for the steel is at MRT equal to 1 is 200, and for the autos is 1,300 for the autos. This is for the Japan country when is MRT equal to 1. And for the next country is Korea, and for the product of steel, when the MRT is equal to 1, the quantity of product of steel is at 900, and for the autos is at 400.
Correct.
Okay, I will pass to the next presenter.
You can see already the shape of the PPF. Korea is going like this. So you know already Korea will specialize in production of Y, which is steel. For Japan, going like this, going to the right. Yes, going to the right. So you know already Japan will specialize in production of X, which is auto.
Yes,
All right. Okay.
yes, sir. I will pass to the next presenter. Okay, sorry. This is my question too. With the relative product price in each country is now 1 T equal to 1 auto or MRT equal to 1, and suppose 500 autos are exchanged at this TOT. Locate the consumption point of each Japan and Korea. How much is the consumption gain of each country in steel and autos? For the Japan, Japan's steel consumption equal to 200 plus 500 equal to 700 tons, and Japan autos consumption is 1,300 minus 500 equal to 800 unit. For the Korea, steel consumption is 900 minus 500 equal to 400 tons, and Korea auto assumption is 400 plus 500 equal to 900 of units.
Here we want to see the new consumption gain. Okay.
You mean the graphs?
Yeah, we want to see the consumption gain because of trade. Yeah, it's easier to see on the graph rather than, so you have to check again because for Korea, the consumption gains will for Japan, Japan first. For Japan, consumption gain will be from trade, okay? Will be 200 tons of steel and 200 units of autos. That's the answer. So you have to check again. Never mind. This is our exercise, okay? We learn from our exercise. So check. For Japan, consumption gain will be 200 steel and 200 autos. For Korea, consumption gain from this trading will be 200 steel and 100 automobile. Okay, so finish, right? We have to move on to the next group. Sorry, we have very limited time. So one question from the floor, from you all, please, to make sure there's a participation. So please, quickly now, one question from any questions regarding this to the presenters. Hello. Hello, please. Next group 3, get ready now. Please, I want, yes. Please, someone ask one question only to the group. And mention your name, from which group. Okay. We lose time. Please, I want someone to ask question and mention your name and from which group. And this is being broadcast live on my YouTube. And also, oh, yeah. I forgot to record. Now I'm recording from Teams. But you can watch the YouTube as a backup. Okay. I'm recording now on Teams. Please, someone ask one question. I am begging you now because the time is so limited. Please ask one question. One of you attending this today, please ask one question. And time is very, very limited for us. We have 9 groups. This is one group only now. One question. And how embarrassing it is for our institution. And this is being recorded. I'll call Ida Yasmin to ask one question. Adriana Dilela Yusdi, please one question.
Doctor, I'm from this group.
Okay. Aisha Izati.
Yes, doctor. Okay, so I want to ask, how many input did you use in this question?
That question doesn't make sense in relation to the, the question that we gave. Not relevant to it. So, Alia, please ask one question. Fizrul Daud. Faizatul Abdullah. Fatin Hafizah.
Doctor, can I
Yes.
ask?
Who? Izan.
Izan,
Okay,
I
okay.
want to ask,
Yes.
can this
No,
group,
I call my name. I call all the names I wrote. No response. So I'm serious about this. There no participation because I've called many, many times. I waited many for a few minutes. So I called the name and I wrote the name. No response. Okay, Izan. I'm
okay,
recording Izan as a
can
plus.
I ask to maybe Harry or any member from, can you discuss or explain more about the term of trade? I cannot get so much about term of trade,
Good.
TOT.
Good question. All right.
Okay, maybe I will answer that
Show the graph.
question from Zahab. Okay, this question
Better
is
with the graph.
what are the term of trade
Yeah.
TOT okay, from what I learned from sir is the term of trade is represent the ratio between a country's export prices and its import prices. Yeah, is it right, sir?
Yes. So show the graph better to explain.
Okay.
Yeah. That's TOT, the trading line. Yes. The international price. That's the new price, which is the same line. That's the one and only one line. International price, trading prices. Sorry. That's terms of trade becomes equal for both countries and by extension for the world. Meaning to say that I'm making the drama, okay? This is banana. The price of one banana relative to the price of one shirt will become equal in country A and in country B. And by extension, will be equal throughout the world. That's the theory of international trade. Whether you live in Burkina Faso, whether you live in Siberia, whether you live in Copenhagen, whether you live in Kodiang, whether you live in Gua Musang, whether you live in Singapore, whether you live in New York, the price of banana divided by the price of shirt, suppose banana is your export. The price of banana relative to the price of shirt, suppose shirt you import. So the price of your export, banana, divided by the price of your import, which is shirt, will be equal in your country, will be equal in New York, will be equal in Kasutia, my always rekaan. When I ask question about shoes, kasut, I will always make kasutia. I ask question about TV, Tiberia. Whether you live in the country named Tiberia, whether you live in Siberia, whether you live in Moscow, will be the same. Price of banana relative to the price of shirt will be the same all over the world. That's the line. That's the TOT line. Okay, you got it? Whereas this I don't know whether you can see this that country PPF, that's PPF. Yes, that's PPF. You can call it terms of, yeah, I wouldn't say terms, just call it PPF. TOT is that one, the trading line. Okay. You're correct. TOT is the price of your export divided, or in other way saying relative to your price of import. Correct? So done, finished. So group 3, please. Is that okay? Satisfied? Is that?
Okay, Doctor, thank you.
Group 3, please. Start right now.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to Dr. Shukri and my fellow friends. Today we are from Group 3. We present to you about the source of comparative advantage. Next slide. This is our group member, Melina, Elin, Nur Ilyani, Naura Afnan, Nurul Aida Yasmin and me, Cik Nur Mazato Akmal. Next slide. Okay, for the first question, draw them into a graph of supply and demand of each country. And in autarky, what are the equilibrium price and quantity of calculator produced in Sweden and Norway? And which country has comparative advantage in calculator? Okay, for Sweden, first we made a demand and supply curve for this country. So we plot all the points that given in the table, such as when price is 0, quantity supply is 0 and quantity demand is 1,200. When price is $5, the quantity supply is 200 and quantity demand is 1,000. So we continue plot all the given in the table. After we complete plot all the point that given by the table, we connected all the point that already plot along the curve. So when the demand is equal to supply, so there is an equilibrium for the calculator market in Sweden. At the equilibrium point that E, the equilibrium price is $15 and the equilibrium quantity is 600 units. Next slide. Okay, for Norway, we made the same step like we made for the Sweden, when the price is 0, no quantity supply and the quantity demand is 1,800, and we continue plot all the number given by the table. After that, when the demand is equal to supply, so there is an equilibrium for the calculator market in Norway. At the equilibrium point, the equilibrium price is $13 and the equilibrium quantities is 600 units. Next slide. So, to answer the question which country has comparative advantage in calculator is Sweden. Sweden has comparative advantage in calculator because Sweden has a lower price than Norway, because which price in Sweden is $15 is lower than price in Norway $13 at the same quantity hundreds unit. So that's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter, Ilyani. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, I will continue the next question about assume no transportation costs. With trade, what price brings about balance in exports and imports? The formula is we need to sum up of the price equilibrium from two countries, which is Sweden and Norway, and we need to divide by 2. Mazato had explained how to get the equilibrium price for both countries, which is $15 for Sweden plus $30 for Norway, and we divide by 2 and we got $22.50. So how can we calculate about trade at this price, and how many calculators are produced and consumed in each country? From the table, we can see the quantity, demand and supply. Then we need to plot all the value given. After that, we got the equilibrium price is $15, and then the calculators are produced and consumed for Sweden is 600 units. How many calculators are produced, consumed, and traded at this price? When the price is $22.50, the quantity demand or consumed is 300 units. Quantity supply or produce is 900 units, and quantity export Sweden equals to quantity import Norway is 600 units. So what does Sweden export? Sweden has the comparative advantage of producing 900 units of calculators and only 300 units of calculators demand. So Sweden will export 600 units of calculators to Norway because Norway can only produce 300 units of calculator. I think that's all from me. Next presenter.
Okay, so next, for Norway, how many calculators are traded at this price and how many are produced and consumed? So based on the graph on the right that was plotted previously, the price that brings balance for both export and import is $22.50. So the quantity supplied by Norway is 300 units calculator and the quantity demanded by Norway is 900 units. Next slide.
No, immediately, this is Nora.
Okay, so the quantity imported equals to the quantity exported, and the quantity imported by Norway is 600 units. So the reason why Norway imports is because Sweden has the comparative advantage of producing 900 units at the same price, in comparison to Norway that can only produce 300 units. So to fulfill the quantity demanded or the shortage, Norway has to import calculator at 600 units. Next slide.
Okay, I will continue for this question. Suppose the cost of transporting each calculator from Sweden to Norway equal $5. With trade, what is the impact of the transportation cost on the price of calculators in Sweden and Norway? So in Sweden, how to find the price in Sweden? So this is the formula. Equalization price minus transportation cost, which is $25 minus $5 equal $20 in Sweden. Next slide. Then, how many calculators will each country produce, consume, and trade? So in Sweden, we can see that the price of calculators in Sweden will be $20. Based on the graph, Sweden will consume 400 calculators and produce 800 calculators. So Sweden have excess of quantity supplied over quantity demand as much as 400 calculators. So Sweden will export 400 calculators to Norway for fulfill their quantity demand. That's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter.
So now I'm going to question C for Norway. The question is, suppose the cost of transporting each calculator from Sweden to Norway equal to $5. What is the impact of the transportation cost on the price of calculator in Norway? From the question, we know that the transportation cost is $5. Before we're going to find the price of calculators in Norway, we have to find the cost of Swedish unit. Function to find the cost of Swedish unit is the price equilibrium of Sweden plus the transportation cost. That is $15 plus $5 equal to $20. This is the cost of Swedish unit. Now we are going to find the price of calculator in Norway. The way to find the equalization price is the cost of Swedish unit plus the price of equilibrium in Norway divided by 2. That is $20 plus $30 divided by 2 equal to $25. This is the price of calculator in Norway after added the transportation cost. Next. So now we are going to the next question, that is, how many calculators will Norway produce, consume and trade? We can see that now the price is in Norway is equal to $25. So we look back in the graph. When the price is going down from $30 to $25, the quantity demand is increasing from 600 unit to 800 unit. That means Norway will consume 800 units of calculator. Meanwhile, the quantity surplus is decreased from 600 units to 400 units. That means Norway only produced 400 units of calculator. In this situation, from quantity demand surplus as much as 400 units. To cover the surplus, Norway have to trade with Sweden with import 400 unit calculated from Sweden. That's all from me, thank you. Now I will pass to the next presenter, Melina.
Okay, so hello everyone.
Yes.
Next slide,
Hello,
please.
everyone there. How is it there? Snowing today or not?
No, actually not. It's just raining. But in other parts of Germany, there's quite a lot of snow, but not where I live.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm gonna cover our last and fourth question, which is in general, what can we conclude on the impact of transportation costs on prices, the extent of specialization, and the volume of trade? Okay, so first, as seen by the previous example, transportation costs are a reason for an increase in price, as they do contribute to the operating costs of a company, as they are added on top of the production costs. Therefore, transportation costs can be a source of a comparative advantage. Next, in case there are especially high...
Transportation costs will affect comparative advantage negatively.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about in my third point.
All right. Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, if we have high transportation costs, they can prevent a price equilibrium, as this might lead to a mismatch of supply and demand, which is not good for the economy.
Yes. Price do not equalize because of that.
Yeah, because if we have a too high price in the supply, maybe there's no demand, or the other way around, therefore no equilibrium due to transportation costs.
Yes.
Okay. And also the transportation costs are a trade obstacle, and therefore they hinder the realization of the advantages of the trade liberalization. For example, in a country with the high transportation costs, this might lead to a reduction in welfare. And also it is possible that due to transportation costs, there's a loss of the comparative advantage, which therefore leads to less specialization in the country with the high transportation costs.
Correct. I want to hit that point. You must hit that point. Less specialization occurs.
Yeah.
That's the main point.
So, and more or less as a consequence of the three previous points, the transportation costs, since the transportation costs are added on top of the prices, a nation's trade volume will decrease as there is less profitable arbitrage. It is to be said that if we increase transportation costs by 10%, the nation's trade volume will decrease by 20%. So it is not even a linear relation. So yeah. So in general, for perfect free trade, there would be no transportation costs, but as they are given in reality, this is an obstacle for the free trade.
All right.
Okay, so next slide, please.
Still, you got it.
Oh, yeah, it's just the finishing slide. I want to say thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Immediately, Who wants to go this question for the group? Please. I cannot read from the. That was it. Can you go live rather than typing? I'm afraid I touched the wrong button and I lose. So can you go live with your voice? Ask the question, please.
So I have one question for the group.
All right.
What could be the source that Sweden has the comparative advantage in calculators?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm going to try to answer it. Comparative advantage is a result of the given circumstances in the country, for example, how much labor, how much capital, and anything else there is. So in case of calculators, I would assume that is required of a lot of knowledge or labor, which might be given in Sweden, or in case of this data, we assume that it is given, that the general circumstances for producing calculators are better than they are in Norway.
I can answer that in general. Okay. Comparative advantage in the model of 2 by 2 by 2, two factors, capital and labor, depends on the factor endowment, extra all in. Okay, factor endowment. If country Sweden in this case has comparative advantage in calculator, we can assume, okay, Sweden, and we must assume another one. Calculator, what is it? Is it labor intensive or capital intensive? Suppose, for example, for the sake of example here, calculator we assume capital intensive, okay, which may not be true because calculator you can mass produce without even having high knowledge about it. So, but let's assume calculator is capital intensive, okay. So we can say from this, we know Sweden specializes in calculator, so Sweden must have more capital than laborers. So let me repeat. Assume calculator is capital intensive product which use a lot of capital in the production of calculator, and given to us from this exercise, Sweden exports calculator. It means that Sweden has a lot of capital relative to labor. It means that Sweden, its factor endowment has more capital relative to labor. In general, okay? Do you follow me? Okay, thank you, Melina.
Doctor.
Yeah, thank you, Melina, and thank you all for the group. So now group 4, start. Anyone wants to take a break, please take a break on your own, because we cannot have a break. Time is so limited. So you can have your coffee, your drink, or your food in front of your computer.
Okay, so can I start, Doctor?
Oh yeah, sure, definitely.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Okay, hi and Assalamualaikum to Dr. Shukri and our fellow friends. We are from Group 4 and we are going to present question 4, which related to the topic tariff barrier to international trade. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the question. So I'm going to answer the A. Next slide. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do when we get the equation is we need to draw the demand and supply in the same graph. So if we plot all the points, we can get this kind of demand and supply curve. Okay, next slide. Okay, so from that graph, we can see when the quantity demand equal to quantity supply, we can get the equilibrium price and quantity. So from the graph, it clearly shows that the quantity demand at the equilibrium price is $250 and the quantity equilibrium quantity is 25. But this is I just want to show how we get that without the graph. Okay, so as you can see at the right of the graph, I show you how to get the quantity how to get the what we call it, the equation to get the equilibrium price and quantity, because as we know, quantity demand equal to quantity supply is how we get the equilibrium price and quantity. So we can get the equilibrium price is $250 and equilibrium quantity is 25. Next. Next slide, please. Okay, so in the same question, we also need to calculate the value of consumer surplus and producer surplus. So as we know, since this is the linear graph, so we can see that under the quantity demand curve, there is a consumer surplus and the formula is 1/2 times to base and height. So we can get that 1/2 times 25 times 250 and the consumer surplus is 3,125. And we get the same answer for the producer surplus, but as we can see, the formula is different. It's 1/2 times with the price and times with the yeah. That's how we get the equation, and just time it and we can get the 3,125.
Or just calculate from the graph.
I mean, like we can we already know how to calculate the triangle. So that's how it's just put in the equation. Yeah. So we can get the same answer for 3,125. Am I right, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's all for me. That's for question A. Thank you.
Okay, so for question B, I will try to explain. For question B, under free trade, suppose Kasutia import shoes at $100 per pair. Determine the free trade equilibrium on the graph. How many pairs of shoes will be produced, consumed, and imported? Calculate the dollar value of Kasutia's consumer surplus and producer surplus. So by using the first graph that Young have did, so we can see that at the $100, this is the free trade, and then we can get the straight line. So to calculate how many pair of shoes will be produced, we need to find the first price, the first QD and QS using the first equation. So by using QS, the equation that Young got is 0.1p. So 0.1 times 100, which is $100, and then we can get 10. And then for QD, 50, using the equation just now, 50 minus 0.1p times by 100, and we can get 40. So to know how many pairs of shoes will be produced is same, which is quantity supply equal to the produced quantity, which is 10 pairs, and consumed is quantity demanded, which is 40 pairs, and for the imported, 40 minus 10 equals to 30. For consumer surplus, same formula.
Stop right there. You can show using this either way, using this equation, or just from the graph. just look at the blue line, which is the supply, the demand line, demand curve. So intersection between the purple line, which is 100 under free trade, intersection with the blue line is 40.
Yes.
Very quick. Yes, yeah, right there. Quickly. 40 is the amount of demanded in the country. And you go to the red line, which is supply, intersection with that world price under free trade, free trade line, which is $100, is 10 units of supply of 10 units. So the import will be consumed for supply 10. 40. Jadi 40 minus 10 is 30. 30 is the amount of imports.
Yes. Okay, for consumer surplus,
And then you calculate also for the consumer surplus, producer surplus, just the triangle, the two triangles.
yes.
All right. Okay, go on.
Okay.
Just I wanna tell the students, very simple. Without the formula, very simple too. Okay, go ahead.
So for the question C, suppose the Kasutia government levies a specific tariff of $100 on imported shoes. The first question, determine and show on graph the effect of the tariff on the price of shoes in Kasutia, the quantity supply, the quantity demand, and the value of trade. So for the quantity of demand, we can see on the graph, which is the intercept. For the first, the price after the tariff, which is 200, you can see the line of red line. 200.
Yep.
And then for the quantity of the demand, which is to be 20 because of the intersection and the straight line of 200 and supply curve. And then for the quantity supplies, you can see you can get 20 because quantity supplies you can sorry doctor sorry for the quantity supplies you can get 20 the intersection of the straight line of 200 and supply curve. And then for the quantity demand at 30, which is intersection of the straight line of 200 and demand curve. So for the value of the trade, which is to be 2000 because the from 20 until 200 and 30 until 200, the shaded area. You can see it, doctor, for the value of the trade.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Volume of trade.
So that's all from me. So I will
me,
pass the.
For us, it's more important to say about the volume of import, which is 30 minus 20. That's more important.
Okay.
Yeah, and volume of trade also.
All right. So I will pass the next presenter. Thank you.
Okay, the question is calculate the reduction in Kasutia's consumer surplus. So we want to calculate the consumer surplus, and how we calculate the consumer surplus is 0.5 times 30, then times 500 minus 200. So equals to 4,500. Then because
I think it's better you say consumer surplus reduction will be the area of A plus B plus C plus D. That's easy
okay. So the consumer surplus for this question is E plus G plus E plus G plus E plus F. Okay, so so we want to find the reduction about the consumer surplus before trade and before tariff and after tariff. So how we get the 8,000 from the question B, the consumer surplus for the question B. So 8,000 minus 4,500 equals to 3,500. Okay, it's
make sure that everyone understand the part that the consumer lose or lost is A plus B plus C plus D, that area.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Yeah. So once you say that, you can give you all the numbers.
Okay, Doctor.
I'm just helping for people to understand better.
Alright, thank you, Lenkai. So for question 3, calculate the value of tariffs consumption, protective, redistributive and revenue effects. So the consumption is area D, donkey, and then the protective is area B, boy, and then redistributive is area A, and then revenue effects is area C, that box. So you can count based on that triangle D. So we got a 500 for consumption effect, and then B, use that triangle, so we got 500, and then A for redistributive effect, that A, so we got a 1,500, and then C for revenue effect, that box, we got 1,000. Alright.
So for the deadweight welfare loss, we know that this is just the combination of the protective effect and the consumption effect. So we just have to add those values. So that will be equal to B plus T, which is equal to 500 plus 500, resulting to a deadweight welfare loss of 1,000.
Okay, how's Manila today? Is it raining or sunny?
Oh, it's sunny today, sir.
Same here, sunny. All right.
So that is all for our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony, and all the member in the team. So please, question for them.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sure.
I have a question. What are the implications of imposing tariff to small nations?
Say it again. Don't get it.
What are the implications of imposing tariff to small nations?
Okay, please answer.
Doctor, I think I can try.
Oh yeah, sure.
So based on the third to the last slide, can you go back to the part where we calculated the consumption protective, the redistributive, and revenue effects? Yeah, this one. So based on that one, we can see that there are 4 implications or effects of imposing tariffs to small nations. So for the first one, we have the tariff effects on the importing countries' consumers. So that's the consumption effect. So from there, we see that consumers of the product in the importing country are worse off due to the result of the tariff. So for this one, we have a consumption effect of 500. Then for the second one, we have the protective effect. So this is the loss to the domestic economy from wasted resources used to produce at increasing unit costs. So from this one, we have a value of 500. So we can also say that producers in the importing country are better off because of the tariff. Then for the revenue effect, this is the tariff effect on the importing country's government. And from this problem, we have a revenue effect of 1,000. So for this, we can say that the government receives tariff revenue as a result of the tariff, and it's up to the government to distribute that revenue to whoever it wants to fund based on the tariff revenue. And then for the last one, we have the redistributive effect, which is equal to 1,500. And yeah, so this is the transfer of consumer surplus to domestic producers. So these 4 are the major implications of imposing tariffs to small nations.
Okay, thank you, Antoinette. I will answer that with a quick answer, okay? I agree with all what you said. However, how to answer that very quickly? In the case of small nation, definitely, 100% sure, with 100% certainty, the country will lose in terms of welfare because of tariff. Small country. Number one, small country cannot influence the supply of the world. So always the supply line will be horizontal line, the supply. So because a small country, so definitely it will incur welfare loss for the country in terms of the two deadweight loss, B and D. And of course, other things we can mention if you have time. Consumer will pay more, higher prices, imports reduce, and consumer definitely lose the area of A, B, C, and D. So, in short, for a small country, definitely welfare loss will occur, will result because of the tariff. On the other hand, for large country, unfortunately, lucky for you, I made just one question for this group, which is small country only. We can have another question which large country. On the other hand, for large country, the result, whether welfare loss or welfare gain for the country, depends. Let me say this way. For small country, definitely loss. For large country, it depends. It depends whether gain will be the terms of trade larger than the A and B. The terms of trade will occur for large country. For large country, the supply curve will have some gradients, not horizontal. The difference between small country and large country, small country, supply of the world horizontal. For large country, supply of the world has some gradient, because large country can influence the supply of the world, because large country. So the supply will be like this, not horizontal. As a result, because of that, under C there's one box. We can call it E. One box, that's the terms of trade effect. So for large country, the answer will be depending on whether E, imagine we have E now, at the bottom of C too, at the bottom of C we have E. E, we must compare with B plus A plus D, the two deadweight loss. If E is larger than B plus D, so gain for the large country. If E is smaller than B plus D, the two triangle, the E smaller, so welfare loss for the country. If they are the same, break even. Do you follow me now? Small country, definitely. A large country, depends on E, whether E is larger than the two hantu in Malay, in English, two ghosts, which is my informal way of saying the deadweight loss B and D. So E is positive for that country. If E is bigger than both of B plus D, gain. Okay? All right. Now, done. So please, group 5, start now. Thank you for group 4.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, can I start now?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good morning, good evening. I bid to our beloved lecturers, Shukri, and my fellow friends. We are from
afternoon, 109 afternoon in Malaysia.
Afternoon.
In the Philippines.
We are from group 5. Present answer question 5 related to the topic non-tariff barrier. So before that, I would like to introduce our group member. We have 6 members: Muhammad Izhan, me, Muhammad Azri Hakim, Nur Asliana, Nur Arzwin, Nuzakia and Nur Anis Afina. Next. Okay, so first of all, we'll start by look at the table given. We have price, column price, quantity demand, and quantity supply. So next, I give to Anis.
Okay, thank you, Izhan, for the brief information about the table. So, the first step we need to do is to draw the TVRA demand and supply schedule of TV set based on the information provided in table 5 in the previous slide. So, basically, Azri, you just need to click the slide continuously so that everyone can see the transition and illustration of how we draw the TVRA's demand and supply curve of TV set. Basically, when we will get a graph like this when we follow all the information in table 5, and automatically we will get the equilibrium point, which is at point E when the supply and demand curve intersect. And then next slide. And then question A. The question is, suppose TVRA import TV at P $150 each under free trade. How many TV set does TVRA produce, consume, and import? Basically, when TVRA import TV set at a price of $150 each, the whole TV supply is illustrated in the following graph above that we have created, where we just need to draw a straight line at the $150 price level. So Azri, you can click. So here, and then under free trade condition, TVRA will consume, as we can see, 800 TV set as indicated at point A by the intersection of the wool supply and TVRA demand curve. This can be evaluated as quantity demanded is 700 units at $200 and 900 units at $100. Thus, at $150, the quantity will be halfway between 700 and 900. And then similarly, at the price of $150, domestic suppliers are only willing to produce 100 TV set, as indicated at point B by the intersection of the world supply and TVRA supply curve. This means that TVRA has to import the difference in these two amounts to satisfy the domestic demand, as TVRA will import 700 TV set.
Stop right there. Okay, I just want to explain you the concept. If you look at this graph, you know immediately that autarky point, which is at E, this country, TVRA, I call it TVRA, the name of the country, TVRA, has no comparative advantage in TV. That's why, because the world price is lower, 150. So that's the concept. The bottom, the yellow line at the bottom, that's the world price. Whereas the price of TV in TVRA is E, more expensive. So TVRA has no comparative advantage in TV. Just I'm explaining the graph to you, what it tells us. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, Doctor. Okay, so as we can see here, the consume is 800 TV sets, produce 100 TV set, and import 700 TV set. So I pass the presentation to the next presenter, which is Izhan. Thank you.
Okay, we go to the question about consumer surplus and producer surplus. So I want to recap consumer surplus. We study consumer surplus from macroeconomy maybe. So consumer surplus is about difference between the price a consumer pays and the price he would be willing to pay. So demand curve. So we can see that. So how to calculate consumer surplus for this question is half time base time height 800. You can see that 800 times 550 minus 150. So we get 400. So half times 800 times 400, so we get consumer surplus 160,000, or we can see at blue part. Okay, so we go to the producer surplus, the difference between the price and the supply curve. So how to calculate is half 0.5 times 150 minus 100 times 200, so we will get 5,000 for producer surplus. Okay. That's all for me. I give to the next presenter.
So for question B, this graph shows the effect of quota on trivia supply and demand. If trivia imposes a 300 unit, the supply under free trade with quota 300 TV sets will increase the price from 150 to 250 with quantity supply 300 unit and quantity demand 600 unit. The value of quota redistributive effect, which is area that marked by A, is equal to Azri next. Click. Area A, quota redistributive effect is 20,000 and quota consumption is equal to 10,000 and for quota protective effect is equal to 10,000. So I pass to Azri.
Which one is you have to say which one is protective effect.
Azri,
what letter?
So for area A is actually the redistributive effect, and for area D is actually the quota consumption, and for area B is actually the protective effect.
Okay.
Okay, Azri, next slide.
Okay, wait. Okay, so this is a graph showing the consumer surplus and producer surplus. So as you can see that this graph, the area of the blue is a consumer surplus, while the area of the orange below is the producer surplus. So to find the area of consumer surplus, we need to use the formula for the area of triangle, which is 1/2 times the base and height. So in this situation, the side length for this blue area is 600 and the height is 300, which is 550 minus 250. So the total surplus of TVRIA consumer is 90,000. So we can conclude that there is a decrease in the surplus from TVRIA consumer of 70,000, which is a decrease from 160,000 to 90,000. Okay, now suppose that a foreign exporter is organized as a monopoly seller. So this company will sell their TV set at a higher price, which is 250. So exporter will got the effect of a quota revenue of 30,000. And since they are not a part of the TVRIA economy, the country will suffer a welfare loss of 30,000 as a result of that quota. Okay, next, Zakia.
Thank you. So next question is, suppose instead of quota, TVRIA grants its import competing producers a subsidy of $100 per TV set. And shown in the diagram, the subsidy adjusted supply schedule for TVRIan producers, and thus the subsidy result in a rise in the price of TV sets above the free trade level and determine the TVRIa's production, consumption, and imports of the TV sets under subsidy. So the subsidy increases the domestic supply of TV sets from supply 1 to supply 2 because it gives import competing firms more incentive to supply TVs when they are receiving an additional $100 per TV. And yes, the subsidy results in a rise in the price of TV sets above the free trade level. And with the subsidy in place, TVRIA producers will supply 300 TV sets as indicated by point B on the graph above. And consumer will still demand 800 TV sets as indicated by point A. And this means that the country has to import the difference in these two amounts to satisfy domestic demand. And the country import is 500 TV sets. Next presenter, please.
Okay, thank you, Zakia. So the next is what is the total cost of subsidy to the TVRIan government? So the total cost of the subsidy is calculated as price subsidized per TV multiplied by quantity of TV subsidized. So $100 multiplied by 300, we got $30,000. So next, Azri. Okay, next question is, of this amount, how much is transferred to Triveria producers in the form of producer surplus, and how much is absorbed by higher production costs due to inefficient domestic production? Determine the overall welfare loss to Triveria. Azri, can you go back to the previous slide? Okay, so the portion of subsidy that is transferred to Tiviria producers in the form of a producer surplus is indicated by area A on the graph. Use the trapezoid area formula from part B to calculate this portion of the subsidy. In terms of trapezoid A, the width of the one of the bases is equal to 100, and the other base is equal to 300. Its height is equal to $250 minus $150, so we got $100. So the area of trapezoid A is calculated as Azri, go to the next slide. Okay, so the area of trapezoid A is calculated as 1/2 multiplied by 100 multiplied by 100 plus 300, so we got 20,000. So of the subsidy, 20,000 is transferred to Tiviria producer as producer surplus. This means that the remaining 10,000 of the subsidy is absorbed by higher production costs due to inefficient domestic production. This amount of 10,000 also reflects the overall welfare loss to Tiviria under the subsidy. So that's all from us. Thank you.
And let me add that we subsidy only one triangle only of deadweight loss. Unlike tariff, two triangles, B plus D. Quota also two triangles, but with subsidy, production subsidy, only one triangle, whatever the letter, just now, which is overall of $10,000 of welfare loss. Okay, you got it? One triangle only. Yes. So lower welfare loss compared with tariff and quota with production subsidy. All right. Question for them?
Hello, hi. Can you hear me? Yes. I want to ask the question. Hazi, can you go back to the Izahan slide? Okay, I wanted to ask, where did you get the amount of 500 of Y when the question doesn't give it right? Can you explain?
Maybe you have to check again your 5,000.
Oh, 5,000, yeah. Oh, not the 500.
550. Right? At the...
Oh, yes, 550. Yes. The maximum, right? Can you explain it?
Okay. So, Azri, can you go back to the question? Okay, so the question did not give the value of 550. So, what I do, okay, for this question, before that I want to thank you for hiring because ask a question. So, actually I'm using a different way. Go back to my, Azri, my slide. I use the mathematic knowledge to get 550, but maybe other student can get by imagine, so the point 550, but I get by using a mathematic. I calculate price. I use the value, price and quantity demand, so I get the demand curve, demand equation. So next, Azri. Next. Okay, so I get Yes, I put there. P equal to negative 0.5 Q plus 550. So how I get 550 at the P or y-intercept? So I get by put Q equal to 0. So I will get P equal to 550. Okay? You get?
Okay, I get. So you put the zero amount. Okay, okay.
Or you want to see my calculation? I will send to the Telegram group. Okay?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure, sure.
what is this B, point B on the quantity? How much is quantity at point B?
At point B, quantity.
If you go down
What?
from B,
Okay. One 100, right?
100. So your
100.
calculation of your producer surplus, you must check again because half of that 100 times 100, not 200. Producer surplus. So it is there's a mistake there. It should be 2005 only for the producer
Okay.
surplus. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a common mistake, nothing
Okay.
big.
Okay, sir.
So
Thank
it's
you, sir.
2,500. And luckily that we go back. All right. Thank you. And next group will be group 6. Go ahead.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good day to Dr. Shukri and everyone. So we are from group 6. Next. Next, Atira. These are our group members. Nur Atira Zahra, Rizwan Lee, Nur Safa Hidayah, me, Uswatun Hasanah, and also Fatin Hafiza. Next. Okay, so for our question, there are two nations in our question which are Gila Kaluli and also Stilia. Gila Kaluli is a small nation while Stilia is the larger nation.
For those coming from not from Malaysia, I'm just making a name. Gila Kululi. Gila means crazy. Crazy about Kululi means steel. This country is crazy about steel. Not that they crazy. Crazy to be consuming steel. So every time I make question, if it's about car imports, I will name that country will be Gila Kereta. Meaning that the consumers there are crazy about using cars every day. So that's why Gila means crazy, Kululi means steel. I'm just making the names of the country, that's all. Go ahead.
Okay, so what we need to know about the small nation is the prices of goods will be according to the prices set by the larger nation. So in other words, they are the price taker. And if the larger nation gives subsidies, it will also directly affect the small nation's prices. So in this case, Stelia's price of steel is $400 million per ton. And next. Okay, so this is the demand and supply curve of steel. So as I have mentioned, Stelia's price of steel is $400 million per ton. So there will be a free trade line along the price. So with the free trade line, we will be able to identify how many steels are produced, purchased, and also imported by Gila Kaluli, as they are the price taker between the two nations. And for further explanation will be elaborated by the next presenter, Atira.
Okay, thank you, Safwa. I will
how many tons of steel will be produced, purchased, and imported. So this is the table of supply and demand for Gila Keluli from question given. I just go to the next slide. So with free trade at price of $400, Gila Keluli will produce 4 million tons of steel. As you can see, that quantity supply of steel from Gila Keluli is 4 million. Gila Keluli will purchase 4 million tons of steel from Stelia. This is because Gila Keluli's demand of 8 million tons of steel minus to the Gila Keluli's production of 4 million tons of steel. Same goes for imported steel. Gila Keluli purchase 4 million tons of steel. That means they will import steel from Stelia. Okay, for the next question is calculate the dollar value of Gila Kelulian producer and consumer surplus. You can see this is the graph for producer surplus. So Gila Keluli's producer surplus is computed as area below price $400 and above Gila Keluli's supply curve, which is output produced 4 million tons. This means Gila Keluli's producer surplus is area that's shown by error. So the total for producer surplus is $800 million. As you can see the calculation here. So then for the next slide, I will for consumer surplus. Gila Keluli's consumer surplus before is computed as area above price $400 and below Gila Keluli's demand curve, which is output consumed 8 million tons. This means Gila Keluli's consumer surplus is, as you can see the calculation there. So the total for consumer surplus is $3,200 million. So that's all for me. I'll pass to the next presenter.
Okay, I will continue this to answering this question. How many tons of steel will be produced, purchased, and imported after Cetelia government grants $200 subsidy? Next slide. Okay. After subsidy, we can see that amount of produce is 2 million tons of steel. To get this answer, we just refer to intersection between the curve, supply curve and line subsidy, and we get 2 million tons of steel. And for the purchase, the answer is 8 million tons of steel. To get this answer, we just minus quantity of demand with quantity supply, 10 minus 2, and we will get 8 million tons. And for the import, the answer is 8 million tons of steel, same as purchase calculation. We just minus quantity of demand with quantity of supply. I will pass to next presenter.
Okay, thank you, Rizwani. My name is Uswatu Nasana. So the next question is calculate the dollar value of Gila Kelulian producer and consumer surplus after Stelia government grant a $200 subsidy per ton. So we know when the Stelia national government grant subsidy, this will make the price fall from $400 per ton to $200 per ton, and this will affect the Gila Keluli country because the country is more. The country is price taker. Next, Safa. As we can see on the graph, when priced at $200, which is below the equilibrium, 600, it shows demand bigger than supply, which means at price $200, many consumers are willing to pay because it is cheap. That's why we can see consumer supplies in this graph is bigger than the previous graph shows by my presenter friend Atira. Okay, here's the calculation for consumer surplus. We take the area of the triangle that is above the price and below the demand slope, which is 1 over 2 multiply base multiply height, and we got $5,000,000,000. And then for producer surplus, we take the triangle below the price above the supply slope, which is 1 over 2 multiply base multiply height, and we got $200,000,000. That's all from me. Will be continued by Fatih.
Okay, next. After Australia government grants a $200 subsidy per ton, so change in Gila Clulis producer surplus after subsidy is we can get the calculation is we minus between Gila Clulis producer surplus after subsidy, and then we multiply with Gila Clulis producer surplus before subsidy, and we will get 600 million. Okay, so and therefore the Gila Kaluli producer surplus after subsidy falls by 600 million. Okay, and then the subsidies will hurt Gila Kaluli's firms because their producer surplus falls by 600 million. Okay, next. Okay, for consumer surplus after subsidies, the calculation is we need to multiply between Gila Clulis consumer surplus subsidies and and then we minus with Gila Clulis consumer surplus before subsidy, and we will get 1,800 million. So we will get the Gila Clulis consumer will rise by 1,800 million. Okay, so the Gila Clulis still users realize a rise in a consumer surplus 1,800 million. Okay, next, the Gila Clulis economy as a whole benefits from from the subsidy by amount of okay 102,000 million we will get from the economy of the Gila Clulis we totaling in 1,800 million we minus with 600 million and we will get 1,200 million. Okay, that's all.
Okay, correct. Question for them? Thank you. And question for them, please. Hello, quickly. Waiting for your question. Because every time we will ask question, we'll know what we may not understand properly. Only through question. Calling of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I will call the name. I will call Noel Safwa.
Doctor, I'm in this group.
In the group, okay. Sorry, I have to get this. Maybe I call Irina Tivchenko. You have a question, Irina? Irina, do you have a question? Your name sounds not Germany, sounds like from Russia or former Republic of Soviet Union. What about Halimatus Sakdia Mahrus? Deki Ramadan. No response? Please, one question. What did I do? Ooh. I'm afraid I lost it. I'm calling on Arvind. Arvind, please. Now's your time, Arvind. Arvind. Arvind mati lingkat. Mati halagan.
Yes, doctor.
Okay,
I'm
ask
here.
question to the group.
Maybe they can rewind to the previous slides so that I can ask questions.
Okay, quickly rewind it. Okay, which one do you want, the slide? Arvind?
Yes, doctor, I'm here.
Yeah, which one?
Can you go in front? Next. 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 This one. Can you explain?
Focus on. I think you should focus on what happened when there is a subsidy. This one, free trade will be all the same. Every chapter will start with free trade, and then that's the starting. Okay, every chapter will start with this is autarky, and next this is free trade, and then the real story to learn, to understand is what happened if, say, quota. For chapter of quota, what happens, say, on topic of subsidy? That's a subsidy. So this one should ask what happened after the what do you call
Subsidy.
this? Subsidy. Yeah, producer subsidy.
So, could you explain me
what is it? I
what
forgot.
is the change in Gilak-Coolidge
Export
procedure
subsidy?
surplus after subsidy? Thank you.
And this is export subsidy or what? I forgot what I asked. Sorry. Okay, answer quickly. What happened with subsidy? Perhaps you need to show, Okay, please answer.
I'm sorry, but can you please repeat the question because we couldn't hear properly?
Arvind?
My question was to explain the change in Gilak-Coolidge procedure surplus after the subsidy. Thank you.
Can I try? Okay, after government grant subsidy, the supply of fuel market increase. Because we know that the large country is the price manipulation, then it will affect the world market. When the supply increase, this will make the price decrease, and this will affect also the gila keluli country. And when the price decrease, the consumer supplies will increase because it's cheap. It's cheap. So they willing to pay more, and the producer will decrease because they willing the decreasing to willing is less. That is all. So
It hurts the producer and fall by 600. The falls by 600. Okay. All right. Thank you for the group. Now group 7. We have 15 minutes. If you cannot finish with group 9, sorry for group 9 or group 8. We have to just bring forward to the next week. All right. Okay, start. Okay, start group 7.
Can you see the slide?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So hello everyone, we are from Group 7 and today we will be discussing 4 trade problems of developing nations. Next slide please.
What time is it in Germany now?
It's 6:47 and we have a test soon.
Oh. Okay, proceed quickly.
Can you skip that as well? Skip. Okay, so now to the first problem. There are a lot of trade problems in developing nations. Their export markets are very unstable since their exports are concentrated in only in one or a few primary products. These primary products include agricultural goods, raw material, fuels, simple manufactured goods, textile, labor-intensive, and low-tech. And it is said that, it is said that low price elasticity of demand and supply are the core problems for this. So next slide, please. Oh, we're having internet issues. The next one, 6.
I'm sorry, but can someone else share the screen because my laptop is suddenly lagging and I cannot do anything about it. I'm so sorry.
Okay, please take over. Someone the slide controller. So don't worry, this thing happens because we are online. It's never perfect. Don't worry.
Okay, I think I was at 6 now. Okay, thank you. So, as I was saying, low price elasticity of demand and supply is like the core problem. So, I wanted to discuss first what is price elasticity, just so that everyone is on the same page. So, price elasticity measures the responsiveness of the quantity demanded or supplied of a good to a change in its price. So elastic demand or supply curves indicate that the quantity demanded or supplied responds to price changes in a greater than proportional manner. So this is where it's greater than 1. And then you have the inelastic demand or supply curve is one where a given percentage change in price will cause a smaller percentage change in quantity demanded or supplied, and that's here where it's under 1, like smaller than 1, yeah. And then you have the unitary elasticity, which means that a given percentage change in price leads to an equal percentage change in quantity demanded or supplied. So now that we know this, let's continue. Okay, so here, how does low price elasticity affect demand and supply? So changes in supply induce wide fluctuations in price when demand is inelastic. So here we can see in the graph that the price reduced and the supply shifted. Next slide, please. So here we see the opposite, where changes in demand induce wide fluctuations in price when supply is inelastic. And here we see the price goes up and then the demand also increases, it shifts. Yeah, so that will be it for my part. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. Doctor, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
All right, for discussion 2. Okay, next slide. Falling commodity price treat economic growth of exporting nations. For a commodity exporting country, lower commodity price mean lower growth as export income declines. For example, a lower oil price also ultimately affects the price of other competing types of energy, which puts pressure on energy price in general. Okay, next slide. Alright, this chart shows the trend in commodity price in developing countries since 1960 until 2015. This trend shows increases and decreases from 1960 until 2015. Alright, for example, in Thailand, the product is food, which is rice. It shows an increase from 1960 to 1995, but in 2000 it shows decrease. Alright, next. Alright, how commodity price affect developing nations? Commodity prices are believed to be a leading indicator of inflation through two basic channels. Leading indicators often exhibit measurable economic change before the economy as a whole does. One theory suggests commodity price respond quickly to general economic shocks such as increases in demand. Alright, commodity-dependent developing countries are vulnerable to negative commodity price shocks and price volatility. As growth decelerated, the fiscal situation in many of these countries deteriorated, resulting in the accumulation of public debt, often as an increase in external debt. Okay, next. Okay. Alright, small change in supply of demand often result in large swings in commodity price and export earning. That's why developing nations concerned with commodity price
Yeah, that
Billy
was what.
question.
Yeah, that was the graph shown by Crystal just now. Just small change in
Yeah.
supply, big change in the price,
Okay.
which
Over the
which
longer.
is what we call the low elasticity of the price, low price elasticity of demand, and also low price elasticity of supply of commodities. That's a problem for developing country. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Alright, over the longer term, dependence on primary commodities heightens a country's vulnerability because non-oil primary commodities price exhibit a largely declining trend. The same level of import, moreover, higher production in world markets leads to a further reduction in price. That's
Okay, let
all
me
for me.
qualify why we always put in the bracket non-oil. We
Oh,
take
alright.
oil, a separate thing because oil is a special kind of, commodity. Everywhere in the world we use oil, especially now in the winter. More oil will be consumed for heating and so on. So oil, we take it a special case. That's why we put in the bracket. All right.
Alright, Doctor, thank you. That's all for me. Next, I will pass to my friends. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will present discussion 3. Okay, so discussion 3, terms of trade is a relationship between how much money a country pays for its imports and how much it brings in from export. So when the value of thought rise above 100, it shows that the terms of trade is improving, while below 100 it shows that it's worsening. So worsening trade thought indicates that a country has to export more to purchase a given quantity of imports. Publishing hypothesis state that worsening thought happens to many developing countries given the general decline in commodity price in relation to the price of manufactured goods. Okay, so decline in thoughts mean price of exports fall relative to imports, and it makes imports become more expensive and leads to declining living standards and lower GDP. And based on doctor questions, to find studies that support worsening thought, Okay, so a decline in the terms of trade is not necessarily a bad thing. For example, a decline in the terms of trade may occur due to a devaluations in the exchange rate, and this enable a country to regain competitiveness and increase the quantity of export. For example, decline in the terms of trade in the UK in 1992 benefit from a in the UK 1992 UK benefit from a decline in the terms of trade. And the impact of decline will depend on the elasticity of demand. If demand is elastic, the lower price of exports will cause a bigger percent increase in demand. And some low development countries have seen improvement when their thoughts decline. They improve in the terms of trade next year because of the rising price of commodity and food costs. And it is also important to distinguish between a short-term decline in terms of trade and a long-term decline. So based on the studies, it's okay to decline in thought in the short time period rather than decline in thought for a long time period. So that's all from me. I pass it to next presenter.
Okay, so I will explain about the review on China declining TOT. So, the economy of China has been undergoing a spectacular process of growth for almost 4 decades. So, during 2008, the GDP growth rate was 9%, even considering the world financial crisis. So, China has become one of the largest export-oriented countries. So, in 1978, the total volume of trade was US dollar 20.64 billion, which was 9.7% of GDP. And in 2008, it was 59.8% of GDP, which China is one of the third largest trading state of the world. So during the past 3 decades, China terms of trade show different trends, in which in 1980s, the average term of trade was 101.66 point, and in the 1990s, it was 104.2921 points, and in the past decade, which I believe in 1990s to 2000, there is a sharp decline in TOT to 89.27%. So what I'm going to try to say is this next slide I will talk about the study by the Deadweight, Tassin and Raza in the terms of trade and its volatility matter, evidence from escalation from China. Okay, next slide. So this is the graph of China terms of trade. So we see the sharp decline in 1990s to 2000. This is because the Asian financial crisis affected China at the margin, mainly through decreased foreign direct investment, FDI, and a sharp drop in the growth of its export. So next slide.
I'm afraid that we have to continue in the next class because it's already 2 p.m.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, so I'm so sorry for your group and group 8 and 9. We have to bring forward to next week. Inshallah, we can manage better next week. Okay, so now we have to stop. Sorry, we have to stop now because 2 p.m. The students, other students will have to join another class. So, okay, we have to stop now. So, thank you all for presenting and